You expect me to just watch my mother die because you don't want to risk our business? I couldn't believe the words coming out of Ethan's mouth. After 20 years of marriage, after everything we had built together, he was looking at me like I was a stranger, like I was asking for something ridiculous. Anna, it's not that simple. His voice was calm, almost condescending. Pulling $150,000 from the business would put us in a vulnerable position. We have employees, investors, and I have a mother who needs life-saving treatment. My voice cracked, but I refused to cry in front of him. This isn't some luxury purchase, Ethan. She has weeks, maybe even days if we don't act now. He ran a hand through his salt and pepper hair, sighing like I was being unreasonable. I'm sorry, but the answer is no. I won't jeopardize everything we've worked for over this. Everything we've worked for. Funny how that only mattered when it suited him. I took a deep breath, my heart hammering against my ribs. Then I'll find another way. And just like that, something inside me shifted. I knew in that moment that our marriage was over. The day had started like any other. I was sitting in my office at the Belmont Grand Hotel, the first hotel Ethan and I had opened 15 years ago. What had once been a struggling boutique inn was now a thriving luxury brand, with 3 properties under our name. It had taken everything, late nights, calculated risks, sacrifices, and I had been there every step of the way, pouring my soul into the business. But today my mind wasn't on hotel operations or client satisfaction. My phone vibrated, and I saw the message from my sister, Claire. Mom's condition worsened. Call me ASAP. My stomach dropped. I grabbed my coat and rushed outside, barely registering my assistant's voice as she asked if I needed to reschedule my afternoon meetings. None of it mattered anymore. By the time I got to the hospital, Claire was already there, pacing. The doctors say we have a window, she said, her voice shaking. But we need the money up front. How much? I asked, already fearing the answer. $150,000. I exhaled sharply. It was a lot, but not impossible. Not for us. Not for Ethan and me. We can do this, I assured her, even as my pulse quickened. I'll talk to Ethan. Claire gave me a skeptical look but said nothing. I didn't blame her. She had never trusted Ethan the way I had. When I got home, Ethan was in his study going through financial reports. I told him everything, the doctor's prognosis, the urgency, the amount. I expected hesitation, questions, maybe even concern. What I got was a business lecture. Anna, I get that this is important to you, but we have to think logically. The business comes first. I blinked. Comes first. He sighed. We can't just pull that kind of money. It could hurt our expansion plans. My hands clenched into fists. My mother is dying, Ethan. I'm not asking you to buy me a yacht. I understand, but there are loans, charities. I don't have months to apply for grants. My voice echoed in the office. We have the money. We have it. You just don't want to give it. Ethan stood up and straightened his tie. His expression unreadable. This is not a sound financial decision, Anna. I'm sorry, but my answer is final. A cold realization washed over me. I wasn't his partner. I was just someone who helped him build his empire. I nodded slowly, the weight of his betrayal pressing down on me. Then I'll find another way, I said. And as I walked out of that office, out of that house, I knew I wasn't just leaving for the night. I was leaving for good. I don't remember much of the drive back to my mother's apartment. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white, but my mind was elsewhere. Replaying the conversation with Ethan over and over again. His cold, emotionless tone. The way he dismissed me like I was just another problem to be managed. I had built my life around a man who, in the end, wouldn't lift a finger to help the woman who raised me. By the time I pulled up to my mother's building, I had forced myself into action mode. There was no time to dwell on what Ethan had said or how much it hurt. I had 150,000 reasons to focus on something more important. Claire met me at the door, her eyes scanning my face as if searching for an answer before I even spoke. Did he agree? She asked, hopeful. I shook my head. Her lips pressed into a thin line. Of course he didn't. She let out a humorless laugh. That man wouldn't open his wallet if his own life depended on it. I wanted to defend him. For years I had defended him, to my family, my friends, even to myself. But now I had no words. Because she was right. We stepped inside, and I braced myself for the sight of my mother. She had always been a strong woman, someone who faced life's challenges with quiet resilience. But now she looked so small, so fragile, lying in her bed with an oxygen tank beside her. Her once bright blue eyes were tired, her skin pale. Yet the moment she saw me, she smiled. "Anna," she breathed. "You look exhausted." I knelt beside her bed, taking her thin hand in mine. "That's not important right now, Mom. How are you feeling?" She waved a hand weakly, like an old woman who's being fussed over too much. I forced a smile, even as a lump formed in my throat. "Well, that's because we love you." Her gaze softened, and I saw the understanding in her eyes. "Ethan said no, didn't he?" I hesitated for a second too long. She sighed. "I never wanted you to depend on him, Anna. I warned you." I swallowed the sharp reply that almost escaped. My mother had never liked Ethan, but I had spent 2 decades proving her wrong. Now I wasn't so sure I had been right. Claire sat down across from me, arms crossed. "We need to figure out another way. Fast." I nodded. "I'll take out a loan." Claire's eyebrows shot up. "A loan? Anna, you know that's risky. You and Ethan built the business together, but you don't technically own the assets outright." She was right. Ethan had always been the one to handle the financial details, and while I had trusted him, I knew that meant I had no direct control over our liquid assets. He had structured everything carefully, too carefully, but I wasn't helpless. I still have connections. Investors. Friends, I said, thinking out loud. People who believe in me. "Are you sure you want to do this without telling him?" Claire asked. I met her gaze. He made his decision. Now I'm making mine. That night I made a list. Every wealthy investor, every business contact who owed me a favor, everyone I could turn to. I spent hours drafting emails, making calls, leaving messages. By morning I had 2 meetings set up. The first was with Daniel Crawford, an old mentor who had once advised me and Ethan when we were just starting out. The second was with Olivia Hayes, a real estate developer with deep pockets and a reputation for taking risks on people she believed in. I dressed in my sharpest blazer, steeling myself as I walked into Daniel's downtown office. He greeted me warmly, offering me coffee before settling into his chair. "So, Anna," he said, leaning forward, "what brings you here?" I took a deep breath. "I need an investment. A personal one." I explained everything. My mother's condition, the urgency, Ethan's refusal to help. Daniel listened carefully, nodding occasionally. When I finished, he exhaled slowly. "Anna, I admire your determination," he said. "But $150,000 is a lot to ask for with no collateral. I'll pay it back within the year," I promised. "With interest." He hesitated. "You've always been smart, but taking money without Ethan's knowledge." "This isn't about him," I interrupted. "It's about my mother." Daniel studied me for a long moment before shaking his head. "I can't do it. I'm sorry." Disappointment crashed over me, but I didn't let it show. I stood, offering my hand. "Thank you for your time, Daniel." As I walked out, my phone buzzed. A message from Olivia. "Meet me at my office in 30 minutes. Let's talk." Olivia's office was on the 40th floor of a sleek glass skyscraper. When I arrived, she was standing by the window, looking out at the city skyline. "You've got guts, Anna," she said, turning to face me. "Coming to me instead of your husband." I lifted my chin. "Ethan made it clear where he stands. I'm here because I need help." She gestured for me to sit. "Tell me everything." So I did. When I finished, Olivia was silent for a moment, tapping her manicured nails against her desk. Then she smiled. "I'll give you the money." Relief flooded through me. "Olivia, thank you." "But," she cut in, "I want something in return." I tensed. "What is it?" She leaned forward. "I want you to leave Belmont Grand." I blinked. "What?" She smirked. "Anna, you're wasting your talent under Ethan. You built that business as much as he did, but he's the one in control. I want you to work with me. Help me develop a new boutique hotel chain. I'll fund this deal and your mother's treatment." I stared at her, my mind racing. This was more than just a loan. It was a way out, a chance to start fresh. But was I ready to walk away from everything I had built? I sat there, staring at Olivia, her offer hanging in the air between us like a loaded gun. Leave Belmont Grand. The words echoed in my head, twisting my stomach into knots. I had spent 20 years building that hotel with Ethan. It was my life's work, my identity. Walking away from it felt like cutting off a part of myself. But then I thought of my mother. The hospital bed. The way she smiled at me even in pain. You don't have time to hesitate, Anna. Olivia's voice was smooth, calculated. You either take this opportunity, or you stay shackled to a man who sees you as just another asset. I clenched my jaw. She was right. Ethan had shown me where I stood in his world. He had chosen the business over me, over my family. I took a deep breath. If I do this, I need the money today.
No dilas, no retape.
Olivia's lips curled into a satisfied smile. Consider it done. She reached into a drawer, pulled out a checkbook, and scribbled the numbers down. Here's the first half. The rest comes when you officially walk away from Belmont Grand. I swallowed hard, my fingers trembling as I took the check. $150,000. More money than I had ever held in my hands at once. Money that could save my mother's life. And in return, I had to give up everything. I drove straight to the hospital, gripping the check like a lifeline. Claire met me in the hallway, her eyes widening when she saw my expression. You got it, she whispered. I nodded, handing her the check. It's done. Get this to the hospital administrator now. She took it, looking at me with something close to awe. How? I don't have time to explain. Just make sure Mom gets the treatment. Claire hesitated, then pulled me into a tight hug. Thank you, Anna. She's going to be okay. Tears burned the back of my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. Not yet. Not until I had finished the next battle. Because I still had to face Ethan. I walked into Belmont Grand for what I knew might be the last time. The scent of polished wood and fresh flowers filled the lobby, just as it had since the day we opened. My employees, our employees, nodded at me as I passed, unaware of the war raging inside me. I pushed open Ethan's office door without knocking. He was on the phone, but when he saw me, he frowned and muttered, I'll call you back. Anna, what the hell? I got the money, I interrupted, my voice steady. Something flickered across his face, annoyance?
Surprise?
Maybe even a little fear. How? I tossed the check stub onto his desk. Olivia Hayes. His jaw tightened. You went to Olivia? I did what you wouldn't, I snapped. I saved my mother's life. His nostrils flared. And what did she want in return? I hesitated. His eyes darkened. You made a deal with her, didn't you? I lifted my chin. She offered me a position. And I took it. Ethan slammed his fist onto the desk. You're making a mistake, Anna. No, I said, my voice firm. The mistake was thinking I could count on you. Silence stretched between us. For the first time I saw it clearly, how little he had valued me. How he had taken me for granted, assuming I would always be there, always sacrificing. You're walking away from everything we built, he said finally.
No, iwis parat.
I'm walking away from you. And with that I turned and left. I didn't look back. I stepped out of Belmont Grand and into the crisp Chicago air, my heart pounding in my chest. The weight of my decision settled over me like a thick fog, heavy, suffocating, yet strangely liberating. For the first time in years, I was no longer tethered to Ethan, no longer tied to a man who saw me as an extension of his empire rather than as his partner. I walked toward my car with a purpose, my hand steady, my breath even. But as I reached the door, I hesitated. A strange, unexpected emotion twisted inside me. Was it regret? Fear? I wasn't sure. All I knew was that my life as I had known it was over. The first call came less than an hour later. Claire. Mom's in surgery, she said, her voice filled with relief. Anna, I can't believe you did this. You saved her. I gripped the phone tighter. She's strong. She's going to make it. And you. Claire's voice softened. Are you okay? I looked out over the city skyline, the weight of the past 20 years pressing against my chest. I don't know yet. She didn't push. Come to the hospital when you can. She'll want to see you when she wakes up. I will, I promised and hung up. I barely had time to process my emotions before the next call came. Ethan. I stared at the screen, debating whether to answer. But I knew him. He wasn't the type to let things go without a fight. I exhaled and pressed accept. "You really did it," he said without preamble. His voice was clipped, controlled, but I knew him well enough to hear the rage simmering beneath. "I did. You betrayed me." I let out a humorless laugh. "Betrayed you? Ethan, you left me with no choice." "You had a choice," he snapped. "You could have trusted me to handle it." "Handle it?" I repeated, anger rising. "You did handle it. By turning your back on me when I needed you the most." Silence. "Ethan," I continued, my voice softer but firm, "I didn't walk away from Belmont Grand. I walked away from you." A long pause. Then low and bitter he said, "You'll regret this." Maybe, but I doubted it. I ended the call before he could say anything else. By the time I arrived at the hospital, my mother was out of surgery and resting. I sat by her bedside, watching the slow rise and fall of her chest. "Mom," I whispered, taking her hand. Her eyes fluttered open, and a weak smile played on her lips. "You look tired." I laughed softly. "You always say that." She squeezed my hand. "But you did it, didn't you?" Tears burned behind my eyes, but I blinked them away. "Yeah, Mom. I did it." She exhaled slowly. "I always knew you were stronger than you thought." I swallowed the lump in my throat and leaned down, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "Rest now," I whispered. "You're going to be okay." And for the first time in a long time, I believed it. The weeks that followed were a blur of hospital visits, legal meetings, and business negotiations. Ethan fought me at every turn, but Olivia was relentless. With her resources, I was able to fully sever my ties to Belmont Grand. The hotel I had built was no longer mine, but strangely I didn't mourn it, because I had something better. Something new. My own venture. Olivia and I worked tirelessly, poring over blueprints, scouting locations, developing a boutique hotel concept that was uniquely ours. And unlike before, I wasn't just a silent partner. I was in control. One night, after a long meeting, Olivia handed me a glass of wine and smirked. "You know," she said, "I had a feeling you'd take my offer." I raised an eyebrow. "Oh yeah." She nodded. "Women like us? We don't settle. We rebuild." I clinked my glass against hers. "Damn right we do." A month later, I found myself standing outside Belmont Grand one last time. I didn't know why I had come. Maybe for closure. Maybe just to prove to myself that I was truly free. I stood there, watching the revolving doors spin as guests came and went. And then, as if fate had planned it, Ethan stepped outside. Our eyes met, and for a moment neither of us moved. Then he walked toward me, hands in his pockets, his expression unreadable. "You really left," he said finally. I nodded. "I did." He exhaled, shaking his head. "I never thought you'd actually go through with it." "That was the problem, Ethan," I said, my voice steady. "You never thought I would." A flicker of something, regret maybe, crossed his face. But he didn't apologize. He never would. "You look good," he admitted. "Stronger." I smiled because for the first time in years I actually felt stronger. "I am." We stood there for a moment. Two people who had once built a life together, but were now nothing more than strangers. Then without another word I turned and walked away. And this time I didn't look back.